Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Wizard World Virtual Experiences as the crowd emojis wildly. Let us see all those emoji love out there. I want to see those thumbs up, those hearts, those laughing emojis, anything you got. Show us your love. Tell us where you're watching from, and let us know where you are and where you're watching from. We are Wizard World Virtual Experiences. I am your host.
I'm
Mike
watching
G.
from California.
Watching. Oh, sir. Thank you. We have someone watching from California. That's super cool.
I'm watching from New York.
New York. Gosh, coast to coast. Coast to coast, everybody. We have people watching not only in California and New York, but also I see folks in the Guatemala. We have in the comments right now. Other countries in Central America as well. Minnesota, the UK. My gosh, am I excited to bring out these next two gentlemen of one of my favorite series of all time growing up, Perfect Strangers. But before we get there, and while they figure out,
wait a minute. You kind of introduced Minnesota as a country. You said Guatemala, UK, Minnesota. I mean, that is embarrassing.
I know. We also have Chicago, which is clearly
wait for your introduction. Wait for your introduction.
Wait for your introduction. Texas, Chicago, New Jersey. Shout out to the folks in Minnesota. We know you're having some tough times. We appreciate you being here today. Florida, Argentina, Los Angeles, also the country of Los Angeles, San Diego. Watching from around the country and around the world. Some quick housekeeping. I literally feel like these two gentlemen pressing on the side panel here to get on stage. But do know that this panel is streaming completely free to you on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and free to the safety of your home. But you can also participate in some paid experiences.
Did you say housekeeping?
I said housekeeping.
All right, let me just get that dust right over there.
This is great. I feel like this is like a live student show. We're bringing them back. We could do a whole sitcom. Just Mike G, the host, talks to Mark and Bronson. This could be a whole podcast. Go to Wizard. I got to get this out faster than normal. Go to wizardworldvirtual.com. Wizardworldvirtual.com is where you can interact with those paid experiences, buy those one-on-one video chats with Mark and Bronson. They're also doing a dual chat, which, my gosh, when you witness this next 40 minutes, it's worth paying the extra for another additional time with these two gentlemen. Also, they'll be doing autographs and recorded video messages. Go to the Wizard World Vault, wizardworldvault.com. That's where we've got signed memorabilia from our past experiences and past physical conventions. Let's do this. We've already seen them briefly on the virtual stage. Let's get them out here officially. The cast of Perfect Strangers. Let's hear it for Belky Bar, Taco Miss, and Larry Appleton, Bronson Pinchot, and Mark Lynn Baker, everybody. Get out here.
I'm just excited to be on with the country of Minnesota. It's my favorite country.
I get excited. I say coast to coast across this country, and then I see other countries, and then I go back and I'm like, and also Illinois. As well. Speaking of, so oh my gosh, Bronson, you said California right now.
Yeah.
And Mark, you are in New York.
Quarantined in Manhattan.
Yeah, thank you both for joining us. What an awesome series. One of the longest running television shows of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, 150 episodes, 8 seasons for primetime TV is huge, and it's such a long run. So congratulations. Thank you for being a large part of our TV childhood for myself, but then obviously many different ages. And people are now rediscovering the series again. It's all on Hulu, and you can go back and watch the entire thing. I would just love to hear a little bit about the legacy of the show and your reactions to folks right now. Again, hundreds of people watching on 3 different platforms that are showing their love for this series. Did you ever know that it would have this lasting power, if you will, or lasting love?
Yes,
Strangers.
That's my answer. Mark, over to you. Mark is so wise. Mark is wise.
Mark is wise.
He has a Mark Twain mustache, which makes him even more literate.
True.
I think it took us about 100 episodes before we realized that the show was going to run.
It took us about, I remember at the very, very beginning, they did an incredible series of commercials that were written. They weren't just scenes from the show. It was Mark and me doing various silly things. The one I remember was
interstitials and things. Yeah.
Yeah, I kept opening the refrigerator to see if the light was still go on.
Yes.
And I took a trip at the time to San Luis Obispo. I was just an unknown nobody. And somebody came up to me and said, "You're the guy from those commercials." And that's, I mean, they started with a bang.
Yeah.
That wasn't my most interesting story, but I'm warming up.
No. Well, no, but it is it's a good segue because, and maybe we could talk about this. Perfect Strangers, it started off as almost the show. There were so many competing shows and you had to almost audition shows back then. You know, I know you all did like a mid-season replacement of like 6 really fast episodes and kind of had to prove yourself. What was that like? What was the pressure like of like having to sort of prove that this show was going to be funny and stand up to everything else?
We were too ignorant of TV to know. We just did it.
But we came on, they were doing 6 shows mid-season. We thought, okay, we'll do 6 shows and then, we'll probably be canceled. We'll go home.
See what happens. Yeah.
And they picked us up for the fall for 9 shows. And we thought, okay, we'll probably do 9 shows and then
I don't remember any of this.
And as I say, about 100 shows in, we finally realized, oh, this is going to run.
No, but Mark, really, truly, which was the episode where we went to the gym? Which episode was that?
Within the first 10,
it was early. It was first season, I think, right? Yeah.
As soon as we did, when we did our first serious that going to the gym and waking up achy. That was our first, I think, full out physical comedy, and that's when we knew because people were going.
And we also added the ladies, who were great with us.
And one of them peed during that scene. Remember, Mark?
Did you say one of them peed during that scene?
Yes, there was a moment. There was a moment in the thing where we sat down on the couch, and the couch was small, and the girls were squashed next to us. She doesn't mind. She loves this story. The girls were squashed next to us, and at one point. We said, "Can we offer you some water?" And I can't remember, one of us or both of us picked up the because our arms were so tired from working out, picked up the pitcher. It was cold water, and it spilled on Rebecca. And Rebecca started laughing in a very strange way. And she told us after the take that she'd been laughing so hard watching us, but holding it in. And as soon as the water touched her, she peed. And I think that's when we knew. When we caused urination, we knew that we were funny. It's true. She peed. You can ask her.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Tell me a little bit quickly, and we have a ton of fans that are asking questions right now, so I want to get to them, but I would love to hear a little bit about, you both started in slightly, not TV, right? So Bronson, you were being very successful in a film career, Risky Business, Beverly Hills Cop. Mark, you were doing a lot of stage work.
He had just done My Favorite Year.
Of course. I mean, you were all dabbling in different things, but I know that you were focusing on different pursuits, and then came into TV, and then had this long run. What was it like making the transition from film and stage to then this sort of live audience television sitcom?
I think it seemed very much like stage, didn't it, Mark?
Yes, sure. We had both had enough. We both had done stage, and we had both had done film.
Yeah.
Enough of each, so that we were both very comfortable with that medium, and immediately very comfortable with each other.
Oh my God! From the minute Mark walked in, there was 6 people. They had set me and said, "You go be Balky and shut up." And the character's name was Zev at the time.
It didn't work. He went Balky, but he wouldn't shut up.
And 6 people came in, all of them somewhat famous or famous, and then Mark walked in. Mark was going so slowly, he was almost going backward. He was so regal, and he was so composed. And we started doing the scene for the audition. And there was a moment in it where no one had been able to get, where I had moved some furniture without telling him, and he had to fall. And Mark said, "Would you mind distracting my eye line over there?" And I said, "Of course." But he didn't say the words. He said, "Would you?" And I said, "Of course." And that's the way we worked for the entire 7 years. What I would say to him, "Oh," and he would say, "Got it." And he'd walk away. He'd go out. He'd leave the set to make his entrance again. And our director would say, "Excuse me, do you mind?" And we'd say, "You'll just see it in a second." Right? And it was from minute 1.
There's nothing
Tom Miller of
Yeah.
Miller Boyette, Tom Miller and Bob Boyette, who produced those shows and all the TGI shows for years. Tom Miller, who we just recently lost, it said chemistry. These boys have chemistry, and he saw it right away. That was his genius. He understood what was going on, and we were just, we were babes. We were just there having a good time and working hard.
I remember when I had kept notes on little 3x5 cards about what every audition was like, each person. And I remember very, very clearly what the Mark Lynn cards, because I knew they were going to call me and say, well, what do you think? Not that they were going to do anything, but the one Mark said, Mark, we'll free you to become the character. Did I ever tell you that?
Cool.
No. Isn't that
so
funny?
Cool? Well, and you see it. I mean, you see it, and there's nothing better than a comedy duo that is totally in sync and is just listening. And there's so many fun moments of the show where we can see you.
Just kidding. But you said listening. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
In sync, where you can see each other giving and taking. You know what I mean, wow. and improvising and listening to each other and reacting in the moment to what the other person's doing. Yeah, Mark, what were you going to say? It seemed like you were...
I was going to say...
Be quiet, Mark. Be quiet. I've been in sync with you for 30 years. I don't want to hear it anymore.
No, Bronson, that's what this is about. The story is from you both. Mark, what were you going to say?
We had a real common... I don't know why. Maybe it's just because we, growing up at the same time and being exposed to the same TV and film and whatever. But we had a real common idea of what was funny, and initially I think we came to it from different sides. I was very precise, and Bronson needed to be very free. And
all right, so now I have to tell a story. There's an episode where Mark and I mean, the thing is, you look at it and you say, my God, those guys are in sync. But this is where we really were. There was an episode where we decided to be ninjas. I don't remember why, but there was one thing in it where our teacher, our martial arts teacher said, when you do this move, you go, hoo, 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 hoo. And I said to myself, well, that just sounds like dry heaving. So I think after a few of those, I'll go, whoa! And we were rehearsing it. And Mark said, excuse me, yesterday you did 6 of those before you dry heaved, and today you did 5. And I said, and I will do as many as it takes to make me dry heave. Thank you very much, little man with no lips. And so Mark said to me, he said a line from a play he'd done, which I didn't know was a line for. He said, precision is poetry. Oh. And I got so offended. But I said later, what was that all about? He goes, it was a line from a play I did. I need to know how many you're going to do. And I don't think at that point, I think I might have in those days told him I'm going to do 7 and then did 65.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But finally, at the end of the day, Bronson became more precise and I became freer.
No, it's absolutely. The thing is, no one will ever know how accurately the series reflected our true chemistry, because I wanted to improvise everything and Mark wanted to plan everything. And because there was a live audience, because we had a pact that we would, whenever humanly possible, we would do those big scenes in one take, because we didn't want the audience, the studio audience, to know what was coming. And Mark would grab me by the shoulders and go, right, we're going to do this in one take. And we wanted so badly. So what happened was, because we were locked into this super, like, intensity, if I did mildly, not ever in a big way, but if I did mildly do something improvisational, he was right with me, because we were not going to retake it.
Yeah.
And that's how I think we really came together, because the look on Mark Lynn's face when I would change something was so delicious that I would get a feeling inside of like, oh my goodness. And that's part of Do you remember one of the greatest things? It was not a planned. It wasn't a planned improv, but we were playing the two characters from The Honeymooners, and I got so into what I was doing that I flipped up in the air and fell face down, and then got up again, and it was an accident. And it's on film. It's the take they used, and you can see Mark go as Mark for a split second. Oh my God! I hope he didn't hurt himself. And then he sees me get up, and he gets back into character. The whole thing takes 3/4 of a second, but it's wonderful to watch because I didn't realize I went up in the air and smacked down, and then he thought,
oh my God,
let me stay with him, because he always stayed with me.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful little thing.
Yes,
You notice it when you watch it. I mean, I remember watching it as a kid, but then I've been rewatching it recently in anticipation of this panel, and you can see the fun in your eye. You can just see the glistening in your eyes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yes, we enjoyed each other, and we enjoyed torturing each other.
Do you think?
Okay, so now I have to tell you about the game. I don't know who invented it or if it was mutual, but we had a game for years, which was whenever we are in close proximity and we're going to do that. For instance, there was a scene on a rock ledge where we were stuck on a rock ledge and there was only this much room. So I had to inch in front of Mark and then to look and see if anyone was going to help us. And then I had to inch back, and then he inched in front of me. So this happened half a dozen times. And the game was, whoever is in back gets to pinch the person in front as hard as they possibly can. And when we see the footage, there better not be a reaction. And we did it again. There was a scene where we were locked in a car trunk. I don't remember why. We were locked in the car trunk, and then they pulled up the thing and we said, hi. And we were pinching each other as hard as we could so that when the trunk opened, instead of being in tears of pain,
it would just be a sparkle in the eye. And this is what amused Bronson.
This is what you had to go through day after day for 8 years.
Bronson, is it as hot in California as it is here? It's warm and muggy. And
very warm and muggy.
It's warm. I had the AC on, but it gets a little too loud for everyone to hear you because you're muttering as usual.
Let me shout out to some fans here. You're talking about the live studio audience, and oh my gosh, you're right. I mean, it is very similar to a stage production because you have people reacting, and for you both to like say that you were trying to get it on the first take is such a cool thing to think about. This is a question from Shannon Wambao, who's watching. Would you think that you could have created the same sort of chemistry you had in this sort of new style of filming with not a live studio audience? You know, would it have been the same? You know, what was it like feeding off of the energy of the live studio audience?
It was everything.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Bronson and I did some promos for ABC a little while ago for the new season. And we went in. They wanted the old TGIF to introduce the new TGIF.
Oh, that's
and we were shooting these promos, and they had a little introductory. She and I did a little introductory part of these 30-second spots. And we did it a couple of times, and then there was some conferring off camera between the network and the director. And the director came over and took us both aside and said, could you just take it down? Just a little bit. And he and I both got this. We understood exactly what was going on. You know, the size of even the size of
you're right
for audience in 3-camera sitcom, and the size of performance for a single camera sitcom is different. So yes, we would be. We could make the adjustment. Well, I'd make the adjustment.
That sounds like you want a new season. That sounds like you want a reboot of Perfect Strangers. Some fans are us.
Yes, no, they were talking about a reboot of Perfect Strangers a while ago, and
they were.
Bronson informed me that they were probably doing it with some other people, some younger people. No. And I said, I just assumed they would do it with us.
The thing of it is, we are creatures of the moment. We had an audience of, it was like, I used to say to Mark, oh my God, let's always remember this, because they went berserk when we would, at the beginning of the show, when we would come out, it was like they were there to see the Beatles, and we played to them. And we enjoyed that. But we were both seasoned film actors. We would have, if we hadn't had that, we would have played it on a different level. But I'm glad we did that, because some of our biggest fans, some of the biggest fans of the show were Lucille Ball,
Yeah.
and Greer Garson, and Hedy Lamarr, and Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. I mean, they were all people that were there. So we
were invited to by Lucille Ball to go watch her film what turned out to be her last show.
Oh my gosh.
But my God, that was
well, you guys, I mean, you kicked off a new generation of sitcoms. You know what I mean? We've mentioned TGIF a bunch. You know, what was it like being the tentpole, if you will? You know what I mean, for that new promotional medium. You know, but you guys were kicking off TGIF.
Well, we did. I think we did feel a little bit like the oxen pulling the cart, because after a while it was like, yeah, Perfect Strangers. Oh, look, Urkel. So, but then, we just did it.
What was the one, Bronson? We used to do those after we'd shoot the show. We'd sit down and do the interstitial stuff for the TGIF that was coming up. And there was one that we were doing as like a jazz. It was this rhyming jazz thing. Well, one of us was doing the words, the other one was doing it.
Oh yeah. When Mark and I the thing is, because we did the shows like a play, and it was a point of extreme pride to do it in one-off. So the adrenaline level was right out of your head. And I'll tell you, one thing is that after every show, while we were still in makeup and costume, they would say, let's do some promos. And by saying, let's do some promos, they literally meant 60.
Oh my gosh.
And whichever one of us, I remember this so clearly, whichever one of us was the most just literally like a deflated balloon, the other one would literally hold him up. I remember so clearly being like, if we had done sometimes they had a lot of emotional stuff, crying, this and that. And Mark would just like, ugh. And then there were other times when he was just, what, Mark, what are you doing?
Yeah, keep talking. I'm getting something. It'll take me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
All right, you getting a work ethic? All right. So anyway.
What's it gonna be? Now the anticipation.
We would hold each other up like that, because one or the other of us would be dead. And what is it? Oh yeah.
Oh, look at that. Amazing.
Yeah.
My gosh, how about that? Like, to have Lucille Ball, what an iconic comedian, enjoy your show. I mean, what was that feeling?
Enough to get in touch with us and let us know that, which that's why I have this in my living room right here.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were in awe. I'll tell you a funny thing. I don't know if I ever told you this, Mark, but
yeah, you told me.
You know what? Is there a button where I can turn him off?
You can. Only I have that control. Years. But just give me the signal, Bronson, and I'll shut Mark down. No.
We went to see her, and Mark looked at me right before we walked in, and it was literally like we were going to see royalty, and it wasn't like we were going to see royalty. Yeah. And I remember, we looked at each other like, and we walked in. She had a lot of kids on the show playing her grandkids, and they really were our audience. They were 8, 9, 10. So we went to see her. She greeted us and she said, let's go backstage. And we walked after her like we were, holding the train. And then I looked behind me, and the kids playing her grandkids were following us the same way. And years later, one of those kids was a grown up. He was on Step by Step. And he said to me, do you remember coming to see Life with Lucy? I said, do I remember? And he said, so you and Mark were following behind her with all this reverence. He said, and because I was like 8, we were following behind you. We didn't really know her work.
Oh,
because they were 8.
Yes,
he said, we were following behind you. Like,
that's crazy.
It's quite an interesting thing.
Oh my gosh, that's surreal. So surreal. You mentioned a little bit about holding each other up, a literal holding up moment that became such a fan favorite was the Dance of Joy. A bunch of fans are asking, Handy J watching on Facebook, also Alice Masato. Tell us about the Dance of Joy. I know you did it a lot for the studio audience in between takes. It was obviously a part of the show. What was the inspiration behind that? How did that sort of come about? Was it an improvised
It took
moment,
20 seconds. It said in the script, as it often did, we are so happy we do the Dance of Joy. And then it just said in parentheses, they do the Dance of Joy. So Mark and I, we, as usual, not saying full sentences. I was like, well, we could. He goes, yeah. And then we get to be like, and it's like, and then I get a bunch of like, and then I'll catch you. And everybody said, what the hell are these two talking about? And we did it. I think I remember very distinctly because it became so big. We did it. We came up with it in 20 seconds.
Wow.
End of subject. 20 seconds. And we talked through it. And then we did little movements. And then we did it. That's it. That's the way we worked.
Yeah, and that shows how how trusting you were of each other as performers, which is so cool. Speaking of that trust, we talked a little bit about this. One of the best parts of the show is the physicality, right? The physical humor, the stunts. A bunch of fans are wanting. We talked a little bit about one of those potential injuries, but Alan LeBlanc, Rhonda Metek is wondering, did you do? You obviously did your own stunts, but any particular injuries you'd like to share about, or moments?
One injury in 150 episodes. We rehearsed. We love to rehearse.
Right.
We rehearsed everything. One time after the camera run through before the show, the writer said, oh, we just want to make one change, and at the end of a scene they added the sentence, Balky picks him up and shakes him like a rag doll.
Wait, okay. Let me tell that, just to add a thing. The show, for some reason, which I can't remember, Balky had an anger problem. I don't remember why, but he went and had to take, I don't know what he was angry about. He went and took anger management, and it was going well. And then there's the thing where I forget why, he took Larry, and it said he shakes him like a rag doll. So go ahead, Mark.
So we just saw that. We said, we'll just do it. We didn't rehearse it. The only thing we in 150 episodes that we didn't rehearse. We ran the scene in front of the audience. At the end of it, Bronson picked me up, shook me like a rag doll. I took 3 stitches in my forehead, and Bronson lost a tooth.
I lost my front tooth. Yeah, but here's the fun part. So I shook him so hard, and his head.
I thought that was the fun part.
No, you forgot the fun part. His head banged forward. I lost a tooth, and he took stitches. But what's really, Mark, I can't believe you forgot this part. They took us first of all, we finished the show. We finished shooting, probably another 40 minutes of work. And then they took us to the hospital, and we were sitting on a little gurney with our legs not touching the ground, sitting on a little gurney, like 2 little stuffed dolls, kind of mournful because my tooth had turned purple, and his head was, well, the same color it is now, that awful persimmon color. Just kidding. We were sitting on a gurney. I think we might have had gowns on.
Oh my God.
I think we might have had little hospital gowns because they had to. Anyway, we were sitting on the gurney, and nobody was really paying attention to us. And one nurse after another came up and said, could you sign this? And Mark looked at me like, we're bleeding, and no one's stitching us, but they are asking us for our honor. You don't remember that?
I remember sitting on the gurney.
So that's done. That's done. Happened.
Forlorn, 2 little rag dolls on a gurney.
Oh my gosh. So that injury happened live in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, oh we finished you put me down. We both dropped to the floor. I dropped behind the couch.
Oh, it was bad.
They took us up, patched us up, and sent us back in. And we finished the show. We wanted to. We didn't.
Is there another favorite episode? I know there's so many. You know what I mean? And we're talking about. But is there another favorite moment that really kind of sticks out as one between the two of you that was particularly memorable?
I think one of our favorite episodes is certainly one of mine, and a lot of people who are fans of the shows, is the Bibby Bobcat episode.
No, I never cared for that. No, that's our favorite. No, that's our favorite. That's our favorite. Go ahead, Mark.
That's one where you can see where you really see when we're doing the alliteration, the back and forth in between the cooking, where you could really see the tweaking each other. Just
Well,
so
there was supposed to be,
really
it was like, that's how you did the Bippy Bob because Buddy. And then I would say, that's how you did it, whatever. And it was supposed to, the final word was supposed to be Mark. He was supposed to win that thing. And right before the show, I was taking a walk to clear my head. And I thought of this affectionate, is it Yiddish? Booby?
Booby, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, how did that come into my head? I don't even use that word, but it was back forth. And he had the final one, which was, I think, Buddy or something like that, or Balky, whatever it was. And then I thought, I've just got to,
buddy.
Huh?
You got to really bop with the Bippy Bopka Diddy, buddy.
Yeah.
And I said, Booby, and you can see on your face the and then on my face I just had to, and it's I can't. It's they left it.
And I have to throw in a word for Dominic Belmonte, who was the prop master on that show, who had to create, you know, all these different dishes, the Maposian dishes, this and that, but the exploding pastries. He created that so that they were exploding in the boxes. That when we, Bronson, are you?
What's happening?
Look like are you in the Poseidon Adventure?
The show was such a good mix of like you're saying, Mark, it's such a good mix of physical humor.
Yes.
And then also written language humor, you know what I mean?
Yes.
As well.
We were adept verbally and physically.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about My Post. Obviously a fictional country.
My Post?
My Post?
Me Post.
Your post.
Me Post.
Your post.
Your post. Me Post. What about it's funny. It was a sitcom, right? That was a 26-minute sitcom that was about these two gentlemen from different parts of the world that got together. But
22 minutes by the end. That's
22. My gosh. Yeah. But there was some cultural context, right? It was about immigrants coming to America.
Yes.
Rose of Pollux also wants to. There's been a lot of love for Larry's character too, for being that anxiety-driven character that people.
That's not a character. He brought that in. Get rid of it. Go ahead.
You know what I mean? But there's Rose of Pollux is specifically saying that they related very much to Larry for just being having anxiety, but being able to deal with it, and then finding support. Both characters found support through each other. Did you realize sort of again, nothing heavy or super deep, but there was on the surface there like a cultural context for different people and different people getting along. I mean, it's called Perfect Strangers for a reason, right?
Very much so. And especially now when the xenophobic message that is being sent out in this country, it's we were ahead of the right side of that.
I remember when I first came to, when Balky first comes to his door, I had this little kind of like a sailor hat on that I had worn in the opening thing. And they said, okay, so you got your little bag over your back and you got your sailor cap on. And I said, no, my sailor cap is in my hands. And they said, no, we want to see it on you. That's a great foreign look. And I said, but when my grandfather came over from Italy and knocked on the door at the sweatshop where my Italian grandmother worked sewing, he had his hat in his hand and she'd never seen that before. And that's how they fell in love. Did I ever tell you that story, Mark?
Yeah.
But anyway, that was, in a sense, my grandfather's story. I mean, he came, didn't speak any English, and everybody loved him, and he was very warm and he was very endearing, and he said he got words wrong right to the end of his life. But yes, it was about the real experience. The even weirder thing is, which I've always gotten a kick out of, obviously Mark's character came from Madison, Wisconsin, and of all places, where did they pick to shoot his opening scene where he's leaving home? A house about a minute from where I grew up. In South Pasadena. And I've always loved that. I mean, obviously they shot some freeway stuff in Wisconsin, But isn't that odd? It's not a very interesting story, is it? Move on, please.
No, I think it's super interesting. Yeah, we're finding out a little bit about about everything. Let's talk about not only obviously we love the characters of Balky and Larry, but what an amazing cast of actors that were surrounding you. You know what I mean? And in order for us to really engage with the main characters, you need those supporting cast members as well. Any particular cast member that sticks out to you from over all the seasons and over the years that you felt like really added to the lore that is Perfect Strangers now?
Melanie and Rebecca, who played the ladies,
so good,
did such a great compliment to what we were doing, and they were, as we were, they were both playing blondes, but they were much more interesting,
yes,
than one might expect.
Melanie, who played Mark's girlfriend, is I speak to her at least once a week, and one of her favorite memories from the show is that there was a scene where Mark and I were running around crazy in the living room, and she and probably Rebecca were in the hallway, and we were running around the room, and then one of us would exit briefly and then run back on set, and then the other one would exit, and she was in the hallway and come on, and her it's just the most wonderful story to hear her tell it. But she said that I would run off and go, I cannot believe what he's doing. He's just cramping my style. And then I would run back on, and Mark would run off and say, it's unbelievable what's going on out there. He's just improvising and he's doing stuff. And then we kept running off. She really has to tell the story, but we were running off, bitching about each other in fast motion.
Oh, noise is off.
Yeah, hey, that's a favorite. That's one of my favorites.
But
Mark.
She's a wise soul, and she took it all in. She thought it was wonderful. We still remain very close. But I love that story because, of course, only she could tell it because they were in the hallway. Oh, Lord.
It was so great. They were such a great foil to you, Melanie and Rebecca, and really added a lot to the show. In addition to, again, all the other strong characters that came in and out of your lives. So much love to them as well for their creations. Yeah. We're almost out of time. This has been such a treat. I want to just shout out to the fans really quickly and let them know that while will be ending soon, you can still
Bronson is at the dentist. He's at the dentist's office.
If you want some one-on-one
I just thought it was a good chance to see if my tonsils were inflamed or if my tongue was coated.
If there's any dentists, go back in. Maybe there's some dentists out there and they can let you know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what we all wanted.
I think
if you would like more one-on-one time with either of these gentlemen, both of these gentlemen, those are going to be on sale for the next 20 minutes on wizardworldvault.com. So please take advantage of that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hang out with these awesome dudes. But let's... Perfect Strangers, obviously a legacy for you both. But you both have distinguished careers in film and stage beyond that. And Shannon Wambach was just curious, is there another role outside of Perfect Strangers that you're most specifically proud of, either before or since, that just really strikes a chord with you as being like a memorable role for you?
Well, ever since the quarantine, I've been doing a production of Lear in my living room.
You need to stream that.
It's going very, very well.
I am very proud of. I played Autolycus in The Winter's Tale at the New York Shakespeare Festival, and I think that was one of the best things I ever did. That was a good, maybe 8 years after Perfect Strangers, but it was my first professional Shakespeare, and I went in a tremble, and I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that.
Mark, I personally am a huge fan of yourself on Broadway. You're with Frog and Toad, obviously Forum, and everything else. Noise is Off. Any of those stand out to you? Any of your stage performances?
I've enjoyed. That's a great. Broadway is a wonderful place to work. I did a production of On the 20th Century. With Kristen Chenoweth and Peter Gallagher. And just enjoyed that immensely. That was a wonderful production.
Well, I have a little Broadway story to tell you about Mark. Mark and I, probably at my instigation, I always said, please don't tell me when you're coming when I'm in a play or anything that'll make me nervous, because I would want so badly to please you. So it somehow became a mutual thing. Mark was in. Funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, and there's a scene in it where they try and get him to dress up as a woman, and he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it, and then they kind of convince him that he's lovely, and they're singing a song called "I'm Lovely." Anyway, Mark was resisting, and then there was an exquisite little moment where he took one little finger and wound it around one of his long blonde curls, and I screamed so hard with laughter. And I went backstage afterward, and he said, "Well, that wasn't a secret, now was it?" I really, I shrieked. It was so pristine and hilarious.
So good. And obviously, shout out to all the artists and crew and folks behind Broadway right now. We know it's a tough time for everybody, but
oh God, yeah.
we hope that we come back stronger. You know, when we can get back into the theaters. Theater is a passion of mine. I know it is a passion of you gentlemen as well. So we thank you for all the work you did on the stage, and again, shout out to all the Broadway folks out there behind the scenes. Leading into my final question, this is from Sean Jameson. Do you any upcoming plans for yourself? So any things that you're working on in the entire industry? And is there any? Have you ever talked about coming together again? Not necessarily as Balky and Larry, but to work together in some sort of upcoming sitcom or production, stage production, anything like that. So you know, any actual upcoming projects and any plans to do something together again in the future?
I will be taking the living room production of Lear.
Oh, Lear, that's right.
On tour to the dining room, and
yes,
later the kitchen. Later this year to the kitchen.
Mark, you have to stream that. People would watch that. People would watch that. Play all the characters. Yeah.
Listen, Mark, I love you and I love your craft, but playing a cranky old man who walks around asking the world why is not any kind of a stretch. Okay. So.
It's in my wheelhouse, Bronson. In my wheelhouse.
No, we came very close to doing a production of The Odd Couple.
Yes.
A couple of times, and we thought that would be quite marvelous. But
I always say that we'll be ready for the Sunshine Boys in another few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bronson's
by the way, for people that don't know him, that little laugh that Mark just did is the "this is an awkward moment" laugh. It's wonderful. Do it again, Mark.
Well, we are hopeful again of getting back to a normal where we can see you both on the stage, on the screen. We appreciate your entire all of the work that you've done, but specifically the amazing 8 seasons of Perfect Strangers. If go back and watch it, y'all. I grew up with it. I'm rediscovering it through Hulu right now, and it's so amazing to go back and watch all the hilarity of what was sitcom TV. So we thank you again. Shout out from all the fans watching. There's hundreds of fans, and they really appreciate you all just taking some time out of your day to give them a little break from what they're doing. All the essential workers, first responders, and then those that are
Mark, you can throw a kiss. Throw a kiss.
Throw a kiss. Throw a kiss.
Mark,
yeah. Any final words to the fans of the show, fans that have stuck around, that grew up with Perfect Strangers, are now reintroducing it to your children? Just one final word from both of you to the fans out there, and then we'll kick things off.
Well, we love you.
Thank you. This is fun to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We love you. Thank you so much. One more big round of emojis and round of physical applause in your home for the amazing cast of Perfect Strangers. Let's hear it one more time for Bronson Pinchot and Marklyn Baker.
Are we supposed to push the button now?
This was your cue. Yeah, this was the point where you go off the screen. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to stay on for a little while.
Trying to mute myself.
Did I do it
myself?
Bronson,
are you muting yourself?
I've been waiting for 35 years to mute you. Just show me where the button is.
We need to make you a co-host, Bronson. It's complicated Zoom rules. There's a lot of complications. Thank you one more time for Marklyn Baker and Bronson Pinchot. What a cool couple of gentlemen there with an extensive and amazing career and one of the best series of all time. So thanks for them for joining us. They're going to take a little break, 15 to 20 minutes, and then head to their Zoom one-on-one chats. If you have those purchased, you can head to that link now. You will be greeted by a waiting screen. Just hang tight, and a Wizard World moderator will be with you. They're also doing dual chat. So if you love that 40 minutes, I can't even imagine you by yourself with them, with a Wizard World moderator. So definitely take advantage of those paid exclusive experiences if you are able. Those will be on sale for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. In addition to that, both gentlemen will be participating in autographs and video recorded messages. So if you'd like to check that out, head to wizardworldvirtual.com. Again, that's wizardworldvirtual.com for those. If you are looking and watching this later and you'd like to find out about signed autographs, memorabilia, works of art from our amazing artists and vendors, head to the Wizard World Vault. That's where we've got all of that from past virtual experiences and past conventions. So definitely head to the wizardworldvault.com as well. Hey, y'all. Stick around. Stay tuned. We have the cast of Pretty Little Liars coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. So definitely come back and check that out. Some amazing other panels coming up next week. We've announced LA Law on Tuesday, June 2nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and the cast of Marvel's Runaways on Saturday at 4. But keep following us on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Wizard World, because we're about to make some exciting announcements about the cast of Krypton, Caddyshack, Gotham, The Originals, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Star Wars, Once Upon a Time. That's just to name a few that might be coming up next week. But stick around and continue to follow us on all the social medias at wizardworld.com to find out more about those virtual experiences. We're bringing these to you free to the comfort of your home, and feel free to participate in those paid experiences as well. My name is Mike G. I have been your host and I've loved it as always. You can follow me at Mike G Does Things if you'd like to submit your questions early for these panels. But otherwise, on behalf of Wizard World Virtual Experiences, my name is Mike G. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. Shout out to those first responders and essential workers out there. Much love to the folks in Minneapolis right now. We will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.